Okay, let's call ourselves to order. Meeting of the West Newbury Board of Selectmen. It is 7:04. This meeting is being broadcast on local cable TV and recorded for rebroadcast on the local cable channels and on the internet. The Pentucket Music Conservatory Winter Concert is tonight. It's, I guess, if you're out there and you want to go to it, it's at 7 p.m. on December 18th in the Pentucket Region High School Auditorium. So that's happening right now. The Pentucket Class of 2020 Celebration raffle for 4 Bruins tickets on Tuesday, January 21st. The tickets are for sale at the PentucketSeniorCelebration.org. The winner will be chosen on January 13th. Town offices in the library will be closing at noon on Christmas Eve, and they will be closed on Christmas Day and New Year's Day. Our Congressman Seth Moulton, he will be hosting a congressional town hall at the Pentucket Middle School on Monday, January 6th at 6 p.m. So that's really, if you have something that you really want to get off your chest and tell the congressman, that's a good venue to do that. I'm sure there'll be a time when people can, I don't know for certain, but people can address questions to the congressman.
Can I ask you a question about
Yeah.
that, Archie? Is that the one that we've been asked to go to? Or he's gonna have like a round table with us?
That's right.
Yeah, so we're actually before.
Like,
Yeah.
we're before our selectmen's meeting, so it's a little bit before. This is the open part, and we're going to be able to talk to them a little bit ahead of that.
So are we gonna have a posted meeting down there?
That's what it would
Maybe,
be, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So on that note, I think we should all come up with 1 or 2 things that we're all on board. You know, instead of giving him like 19 different things to think about, like 1 or 2 would be better, I think.
Mm-hmm. A good question about the Merrimack River.
Yeah.
Sees what we're talking about. I'm gonna research that. I'll ask him that one.
That's kind of the one I was thinking too. Yeah.
All right, well, you can have it.
Okay. No, I mean just all
yeah.
of us together. Yeah.
Okay.
The deadline for submitting CPC proposals for the spring town meeting is January 7th, so that's not very long from now. And finally, there are still a few volunteer opportunities for FY20 committee appointments. Look on the Board of Selectmen, a part of the West Newbury town website. Okay, now for our first business of the evening, a request for a road race permit on behalf of Yukon Sport, and that's going to be June 14th. Hi, come on up. Hi, how are you?
How are you?
Good.
My name is Rich Moreno, and I organize the Parker River Half Marathon. I've done that for the last few years. This past year, I ran into a conflict. I picked a new date and mistakenly picked the same date as the Apple Harvest Road Race. So we abandoned the race this past year, but we'd like to come back in 2020. And we looked at the calendar and found a new date in June that we think is a better fit.
So it used to be in the fall?
Initially, the first few years, it was actually in the summertime, and then we moved it to the fall this last year, and it didn't work out, so I want to move it back into the summertime where it used to be.
Okay.
At the same time, as long as we're making the change, we're also going to move the start and finish line from Triton High School. Instead, we're going to move it to Newburyport and start and finish there. So most of the roads in West Newbury are pretty similar out by the reservoir. Bolton and Bachelor and Cherry Hill. Much of the course is the same through there, but the start and finish would be in Newburyport rather than Fifield. The plan is to start at 8, and it would have a 3-hour limit, so it would end at 11. And I suspect the runners would be most of the runners would be in West Newbury in that middle hour between 9 and 10.
What has been your, so you say, you got it here, I just wonder what your attendance has been in the past.
Right around 300.
Okay.
Where's 40 Park Street?
It's in the industrial park, over near the train station. Specifically, that address is the home of Riverwalk Brewing Company.
Okay, I thought that was the case, but
Yeah.
I did want to see.
It's the Mark Ritchie
Great.
building.
Yeah.
They have a great venue for road races, a huge parking lot.
Right.
And the runners can come in, get well off the road to get to the finish line.
Yeah,
It just
great.
works really well.
Have we had any issues in the past? I don't recall, I don't know.
No, the first 2 years, everything went really smoothly. We didn't have any issues at all. And again, last year, that was my fault. I just picked a bad date that conflicted with a long-time event here in town. So hopefully I can avoid that mistake in the future.
Okay.
You're gonna have it, you're gonna have any water stations or anything like that in West Newbury?
Yeah, we usually have one right up there by the reservoir. I think the address is 40 Moulton Street, is where we typically put it. It's just literally a water station, a folding table with paper cups and gallons of water.
And that's set up the day of, and then obviously,
Yeah.
do you have somebody that goes through the course and cleans up all those?
We do. We have a cleanup crew that follows behind the last runner and pulls down all the signs for us and gathers up all the trash and continues on the way until they get back to the finish line.
Any porta potties or in West Newbury? Okay.
Did we hold you for ransom when we were here before and asked you to make a donation to a local charity?
Donation. Last year, the plan was to donate to the food pantry, and we'd like to do that again if we could.
Okay. I was gonna move it around, but that's fine. How can I say no to hungry people? But I was gonna make a donation to the Page School Playground
That's
Association.
gonna be mine too, but
Or,
either one. What,
if that, we can get you that information.
That'd be great.
The people that are sitting behind you, I think, are going to ask us to support a playground or accessibility project for our youngsters. So it probably would be a good idea if we could arrange something like that for them. But you don't have to, okay.
Top of mind, my card. We built a similar one in Rockport, and my kids did love it, so I'm all for it.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve
One second.
with that stipulation of a donation to the,
further discussion, all in favor? Aye.
aye. You're done. You're done unless you want to hang around.
Okay.
I mean, I'm almost positive
So
you have.
I guess we ought to, I just put this on my calendar, and we ought to keep track of, just in case, to avoid the situation that you experienced this year where, we inadvertently scheduled where another event was going on. We should try to keep
Yeah.
tabs on that.
No, we do. Yeah. Annie's on top of that. Yeah, that was partly with the staffing transition where it had been handled by a certain, and then it was,
Okay.
but no, Annie's got a tight handle on that.
That
And
should be a good time anyway from temperature standpoint, June 14th, the heat of the summer typically hasn't come on, I think,
Fingers
right,
crossed, yeah, and hopefully we're early enough in the day.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Get it over and done.
That should be good. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for the help, I appreciate it.
thanks, Rich.
Okay, next item is request for support from the citizens group to bring forward a proposal to the CPC related to improving the accessibility at the paid school playground. Come on up, ladies. Okay.
So we have a PowerPoint, is it okay if I stand up there, or do you prefer me here?
Doesn't matter. But
But
you
just
need
to-
to have a
yeah.
mic.
Is that working?
Make it turn green. There you go.
And,
Stay close to it.
yeah,
Okay.
sometimes when you're doing a PowerPoint, you can pick it up if you'd like.
All right. Thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Tricia Sabulis, and I have been working with this citizens group where we are with the project a little bit. So you can see that we are working away on this, and hopefully we will have everything together for the January deadline for the CPA funds. So just in case anybody hasn't seen it, this is the existing playground that is there. This is the back playground. So this is in use at the PH school for grades kindergarten up through 6th grade. It's roughly about 365 students for 2 hours a day. You can see it's got drainage issues. There's puddles. That is caution tape there.
Why?
In that particular case, I didn't really get into that with them. I don't know if it's broken or they just don't want anybody going under there because of the water.
Thank you.
I did walk the site with the principal and with Wayne a couple of months ago, and there's some broken apparatus in that location. And because of the type of the equipment, it's not something that can really be repaired. You'd have to replace the whole unit, is how it was described to us. So it's been, I think it's been broken for some time.
Okay, next. This is just some more pictures so you can see the size of the puddle next to the shoe. The one under the slide, it didn't even, it's a picture from far away, but it was up a little bit over my
It's a
knee.
water slide, isn't it?
It is a water slide, indeed. I mean, if it were warm out, it would probably be fun, but it was very cold. Those are the existing swings. So as you can see, there's no ADA compliant walkway getting out there. There's the burn around them. There is a special needs swing, but it doesn't have straps. Most special needs children need straps, so it's basically unusable. So as you can see, the existing playground is not ADA compliant. There's no provisions for stormwater management, and due to flooding and ice, it's effectively unusable about 4 months per school year for those children. There's limited funding in the operating budget for the maintenance. And per the regional agreement, Pentucket handles maintenance, town responsible for capital improvements. So basically this whole process, it's been a core group of parents, town staff, and school administrators. And we've had some meetings, site visits, and correspondence since last summer. A little bit of background, my daughter is in a wheelchair, and she got a new wheelchair and couldn't roll on any of the wood chips. So that's where it all started. I reached out to basically everybody who I thought might be able to help. So we've had some also correspondence with O'Brien and Sons. Angus has been doing that. They're a vendor that we were referred to by a couple of other towns and organizations that had built or were working to build an accessible playground. And they are on the pre-qualified vendor list. They prepared a conceptual design for us, and they gave us an estimate of what that design would cost, and it's underway to get a firm cost from them that would need to be included in the application. It would need to be a detailed budget as per conversations with the CPC. And we want to keep going with this inclusive design, but the CPC has confirmed that if we do get the firm pricing from O'Brien and Sons, we can have input from parents. We can open it up and have parents give us input on what they think would work, and we can change things in the design as long as we stay within the cost that we've proposed. So even though we have this design as a conceptual design, if we say need to change a structure or move things, as long as we're staying within the same price, it's okay. So we will be able to open it up to the public to have input.
Can I just ask a question? When you said they're on the approved vendor list or pre-qualified vendor, who's listed as that?
So it's actually the state higher education consortium.
Yeah.
And so it's once someone's on that, it basically you can hire someone off the list because they've already gone through the bid process.
Okay.
So it basically streamlines the purchasing process. And
So you don't have to send it out to bid and get the.
Yeah, good. Okay, thanks.
so
So this is the conceptual design that they've created for us. So as you can see, it's accessible. There's something for everybody, kids of all abilities and ages, and it looks awesome. I want to play on it.
Does it have a weight restriction? Because I kind of want to play on it.
Oh, me too. Here's it a little bit more close up, but you can see it's beautiful. It's something that our children would love, everybody. So regardless of the fact that it's accessible, it's just really a beautiful playground.
What's the flooring, if that's the right word?
So that is to be determined. That will actually actually have a very big, piece of the costing that we're going to be doing with O'Brien and Sons, and to this point, we haven't done that with them because, we didn't wanna get to the point of costing with them until we really knew that we were gonna be able to get this application in. But at this point, once we do the actual broken out price, we will determine what the surfacing will be, and that will have a very big impact on the site work that needs to be done. We don't know the scope of the site work until we know what the surfacing is. And so that's something that will be discussed in depth with O'Brien and Son to find out what's the best, what's going to last the longest, what's going to, be the best option for us there. So, great question, but to be
In New England, obviously. I mean, because
Right,
what works in California doesn't work as well probably in here.
exactly, and we want it to last, we want it to,
Mhm.
Be easy to maintain as much as possible.
So, and if I can just add to that, so it's been a bit of a chicken and egg thing on design because O'Brien and Sons is a design build firm. So normally that's built into their contract. Once you contract with them to do a playground, they do the design on a kind of a iterative basis with the client. But without a budget, we don't have a project. So, we've been working with them to get conceptual designs and some budget numbers behind that. And what Tricia referred to earlier, what we envision for this is if the project goes forward, that it would be a design process that would involve parents, involve students, that it would be kind of, so what you see is a terrific concept, but it's not exactly what would happen, but
Or it could be.
Or it could be.
Mhm.
But the box that we're in is the CPC, in their guidelines, they like to have things like fully costed out in detail. So that's kind of the threading the needle. So we're working with O'Brien to work up the detailed budget that goes with this. But then that's where, Tricia met earlier this week with the chair and with the CPC administrator, and they did confirm that, if the project's approved by CPC, there is some flexibility that within the scope of what was approved, obviously you can't submit something and then do something entirely different, but if it's, generally consistent with what was proposed, as long as it stays within the overall budget, there's some flexibility, which I think is good because the process is, you want people to have ownership of what the end product is.
What about the ability to, 8 years from now, either something is worn out or there's something that's cooler that people want to do? Can we somehow factor in that it can be, like, if the existing one is not repairable at all, that would not be, that seems like a bad thing. We'd like to have it adaptable or repairable or the ability to put new items in, it seems like, rather than, okay, if this fails in 8 years, then we have to start all over again. That doesn't sound like a good process. Do you know, did they say anything about that?
I am not sure if that was brought up in discussions with Angus, but such as like a warranty program to make sure.
Well, no, just that it could be, you go to playground 3.6, can you update them in the future, or is it, you got this and this is it for until it breaks? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of want not planned obsolescence,
Right.
You want things to be repairable or upgradable.
That's exactly it, yeah.
Or if there's a reasonable upgrade.
Absolutely, that's great input, and definitely something that we'll discuss with O'Brien and make sure they have a good plan for that.
Okay.
And I know a question is going to come up because you alluded to it earlier that there isn't a maintenance budget. We've been fighting for that for years, but whatever, not just on a playground, but on a regular maintenance budget. But you might want to come up, because that will be asked at town meeting, well, how much is that going to cost to maintain? Yeah, it costs a couple $100,000, and now we're going to have to spend 20
We have
grand.
spent a lot of money on maintaining playgrounds even, yeah.
Absolutely, I mean, and I think, with the wood chips, they have to be replaced regularly because they get pushed down and, disintegrate into the ground and so that will be something that we'll need to discuss. And like I said, with the surfacing, discussing with O'Brien the different types of surfacing Okay, so our next steps, getting that formal proposal from O'Brien and Sons on that presented design, but, you know, really still understanding and knowing that while the cost is firm, that design could change a little based on input from the town. The DPW director is working on the scope and the budget for the site work, so once we decide what that service is going to be, he'll be able to know, to be able to put together that scope of work. So for your next board meeting, on January 6th, we'll have a review of the proposal and request a vote to authorize the submittal for the work on town land. And then on January 7th, the school committee will vote to authorize work on the town land since they hold the lease. And then-
Excuse me, may I interrupt you? That needs to happen?
We don't think it does need to happen.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to happen.
But
either.
working with the CPC, as you know, and they did urge getting a vote from the school
Okay,
committee,
yeah.
so we
I-
thought
Is
if,
that part
yeah.
even part of their?
Because it says
It-
that-
it is-
It doesn't go
No, it
all the way
does.
down the hill.
No,
but it does include this, but
No, it's
I,
part-
It
no,
does or
it's-
does not?
it does.
It does.
The leased
Okay.
area does.
It's on the
include-
leased land,
yeah.
but it says right in the lease that we can do whatever we want up there. And we don't
Yeah.
have to, like,
It's
do
more, you know, I was thinking since.
But
this-
it was
yeah,
to be checked the box just so somebody doesn't.
Exactly.
That gives them a reason to vote no. And you
Yeah.
don't want to give any
Right.
reason for anybody to vote no.
Absolutely. We want to give them as much as possible. We have a lot of letters of support that are coming in from the rec. You know, that will come from the school committee to show their support for it. Page School, the principal, the superintendent. So we're making sure that we collect those to submit them to the application as well.
And that's the same night that we'd have to look at it at the CPC.
No, it's submitted to CPC on the 7th.
Yeah.
He's a
CPC would look at it on the 17th.
He'll be voting on it.
Okay.
Yeah, yep.
That's the next meeting, all right.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah, this next school committee meeting is the 7th.
So other than that, we'll finalize the CPA application and any further questions.
So it looked pretty big. You just can't tell, obviously. There's no scales, but how it's going to fit up there? That just seems like more stuff than.
So O'Brien and Sons did the site walk with Angus and Mr. Gray. So this is the scale of what could go up there. But what you couldn't really see from the existing playground was there's the playground with all those structures, and then right behind it is an open space that was a volleyball court. And now it's just open dead grass and sand. So it will be used there as well. And then also the swings that I showed you are off to the side.
Mhm.
And this, you can see that they're on there.
That might be a question they might ask the school committee. That
So it's not impinging on the softball.
yeah, softball field or anything like that. That might be a question that
Yeah.
somebody up there might
So,
ask.
you know, you mentioned the volleyball, what was previously a volleyball court. Is it actually going to increase the size of the existing playground then, or?
Not the overall footprint, it's within the footprint of what's currently delineated as the playground, but within that playground, it's divided into this kind of old volleyball court and the playground.
Okay, because I'm sure there's some correlation between size and cost, and cost will inevitably be a question, and particularly when we go to town meeting and need to sell it at town meeting. Yeah. Okay. Great.
Okay, great.
Great.
Thank you so
Thanks a
much.
lot, thanks for the work.
Thank you for having me here tonight. Very exciting.
So then it's approved at Springtown meeting, and then it gets built during the summer, and the kids have a brand new playground next school year.
I mean, that would be the hope, absolutely. We would love to have it ready for the school year.
That's what I would.
Things lined up.
Well, that's what I would shoot. That because the CPC, then the money wouldn't be available. What? Can you do CPC under special town meeting, or is it have?
Yeah.
When you have a special town meeting, the money can be available immediately. When it's on the annual town meeting, it only becomes available July 1st. So I would make sure this was a special.
Right.
If it gets through there, it would be on the special. It's the same night.
Okay. But so that
It would be an article on our special town meeting because that's generally the last Monday in April. So the day after, the money's available. So then they could start that building structure, get everything planned, and then have it done, approved, and have enough time to get it done in the summer.
I think that might be something to consider also with the Park and Rec, just to make sure that we don't want them to turn across just in case Park and Rec needs to use that playground, just to make sure that it's. something is still-
Somebody's
That's a
always,
good- that's a
somebody,
good point,
they
yeah.
have summer programs there.
Yeah.
But you know what?
That's additional kids using the playground, they have about 125 kids.
Yeah, but you can't use it then. Sorry. I mean, it's always gonna be somebody.
No, but Glenn, we can't have big trucks coming up there either. We'd have to
Yeah,
like-
but it's a lot easier to have trucks in the summer than it is in the school year.
Yeah,
So all this is kind of speculative because we don't know what the schedule is for the company O'Brien. I mean, we have no idea what their schedule is.
That's true.
yeah.
But it all has to come from China.
But the goal would be hopefully to have it done by the time school started.
So-
That would be the goal, as long as it's done by the time school
Yeah,
starts.
beginning of August.
Our main goal.
So I'm gonna ask the question. So this is eligible for CPA?
Recreation.
And it always was. Because there was that lawsuit in Newton that they used the money on a playground, but the playground wasn't built with CPA money, but they used CPA money to refurbish the playground, and that's the reason why it wasn't eligible. But that's
Yeah, but
changed.
old rules.
That's
Old
changed.
rules.
Okay. Just want to ask. It's kind of a rhetorical question, but I just want to
Just
get it
before-
out there.
Before the designated hitter. That's all.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'm ashamed that being a selectman, we don't have an ADA compliant playground for our elementary school. It was most sickening, I think, to all of us when we heard that maybe 2 months ago. So this, I hope, happens tomorrow, which it won't, but you understand what I mean. So I'm in full support of this, and hopefully this will just fly through and get it built as soon as possible, so every kid can have the same type of an experience in their elementary school,
Absolutely.
no matter whatever. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, one question. How is this gonna tie in with
Senator
being
Tarr's
able to
money?
utilize Senator Tarr's money?
Thank you.
So, okay, so that's
I thought
actually
that
been
We
on
don't
a,
want that to go by the board.
I thought that
No.
earlier, and I forgot to ask the question.
yeah, no, that's not going by the board at all. So I've been in correspondence with the state. I think it's the same office, the EOHED, that administers it, but they need a budget for the $20,000. So we got some pricing on some swings, which would be responsive to the needs. And so the idea is to swap out 2 swings from the current bay, and then do a stone dust path to access the existing swing. So that's not reflected in this drawing, so that's something that we ought to change, because the idea is to do those swings sooner, because that has to be done, that has to be expended this fiscal year. So to release that money, the state needs a budget for how the 20,000 is used.
This
So-
fiscal year, which would be next June,
June, right?
what can you use that money for?
But we don't wanna just,
Can you use that money for design?
Well, that's what we'd like to put
because
some, but
we don't wanna put swings up and then take them down 6 months
Because
later.
the article would seem, sometimes it seems a little bit more inviting to people to vote yes if you say, well, we're getting $20,000 from the state, we're getting $17 from this road race, and then.
No, you're right, Glenn. Yeah, I'd rather we could go to this than to than have something that is been obsoleted in 6 months. That doesn't make sense.
Yep.
So the swings that we're getting can go right in here, as you can see the 2 special needs swings there, so the swings can go right in here. We're not getting new bays for the swings that were purchased, they're going in the existing bays. So.
Bays
that-
mean the structures. Bays mean the structures?
Right, the
I'm
structures
getting
holding the
confused,
swing.
but-
So we're using existing bay structures for the new swings, and then
Yeah.
those can go in this project,
Yeah.
in this design. And then the walkway, which we'll get, is the accessible walkway to the swings right now, and then anything left over.
So.
But will that walkway be useful for this?
Yeah, exactly, yeah, I mean, how much of the of the 20K state money, how much of that will be able to be used for the grand design?
We would like to put some of that money toward the engineering for the site work and for the drainage improvements. So because the swings and the estimated cost to get a ADA compliant path from the parking area to the current swings doesn't get to 20. It gets to maybe like 11 or 12. So if we could put the balance toward design, we haven't confirmed that that's eligible, but we'd like to do that. But I think that if this is on track to move forward, I think that makes a much more compelling case to the Commonwealth to put it toward design, because if they know it's going to be a project that's actually going to get built, they're not want to put design money toward that's something that's going to sit on the shelf.
Yeah.
But if they know there's an active project going forward, I would think that's fully within the intent of what was earmarked. But
Because none of this is
we're
gonna
still
get
working up
built
that budget.
until- if this all gets approved in April, none of it's gonna be built before April anyway. We're not gonna be able to spend that 20 grand until then anyway.
I mean, well.
Because he's not
we're
doing
already
site
working
work.
On the walkway. I mean,
Mhm.
the walkway, this is conceptual, so, where is that walkway ending?
Mhm.
Make sure that it gets.
Have you gotten any preliminary estimates? You said that, but didn't give us a number. Probably don't give it to me.
For the conceptual?
Don't give it to me. Don't give it to me. Don't tell anybody.
So you have a firm one at your next meeting.
Thank you. Don't tell anybody. Because that's always the problem. Everybody wants to know the number. Then you give them a number and tell them it could be higher, it could be lower, and then they always turn it all over on you. I thought you said it was only going to be $10. Now you're telling me it's $12. Well, I told you
Well,
that
the
it was.
figure that was thrown out to us
Don't-
anyways does not include any site work, so we really do not have a firm number on it.
Okay.
Okay.
It's going to be a lot of money. Right? These things are expensive, aren't they? Hundreds of thousands.
To your children.
I really don't even like children. It's the second time I've said that today. No, I do,
At
I
your
do.
next meeting, we anticipate to have those firm.
There is no cost. You mean there's infinite
Yeah?
cost?
I know, you want to come to my, you want to come, yeah. I had 3 kids that went to the paid school, but youngest is 22. Once you come over to my house, I'll show you all the costs of 3 kids. It ain't pretty. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I used to be skinny until I had children. That's the biggest cost.
Okay, now we're going to talk about the town's request to the Mass Department of Transportation on changing some of our speed limits. First off, on Chase Street. So we did a study and went to Mass DOT, and so people realize that the town, the Board of Selectmen, do not have absolute power to change speed limits. That's up to Mass Highway. They have regulations in terms of average speeds on the road already, in terms of how settled the area is, all sorts of things like that. So we do have to actually ask the state for permission to change speed limits. So people have to be aware of that. The take-home message, I don't think we need to get too fussy about it, but basically, their determination is that, and I will read from their documentation, beginning 140 feet north of the junction of Middle Street, thence northerly, I like that word, on Chase Street, for half a mile, it will be the speed limit. This is going northbound, will be on Chase Street, will be 35 miles per hour. And southbound on Chase Street, beginning at the junction of 113 and then going south on Chase Street for half a mile, the speed limit will be 35. This isn't what the town wanted, but this is what the powers that be in the Mass DOT have recommended at the moment. There's no reason we can't re-petition them, but at least at this particular time, this is what they want. We had asked for 30, and they came back with 35. Is that correct, Angus?
That's exactly right. Yep.
Okay. And so,
So in the near term, you're not likely to change that.
No, I'm told that they are, they rely entirely on the traffic, speed data that's submitted. And as you may remember, we had submitted this petition initially back in June, and we had reams of data that was gathered by the police department. Unfortunately, and the state typically takes 90 days. It could be up to 120 days to respond. When they responded, they basically kicked back the data, saying it wasn't valid because it was collected by police. And so the presence of police affects people's speed. So Wayne, went out, gathered more data, sent more data. And on the basis of that, they just see that supports 35 miles an hour. So
From a long-term perspective, if we felt it important, continue to feel it important to try to change to 30 miles an hour, we change to 35 now, and we put up flashing signs with radar that if you go over 35, tell you that you're going too fast, and that's going to push the speed to nominal or the average speed down. And 5 years later, you go back and
But you have to, when they do that, you have to tell them that you did that. That's the same thing of having a police car there. If you're using something to slow people down, then they have to put that in their little equation.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like Gary said, we've asked before, years and years and years ago, and they've actually went up on the speed and say, actually, it's 30, it's 35, you're asking for 30, but because of the traffic and because of the, not very populated, we think it should be 40. It's actually gone the other way when we were trying to get it down years and years ago. But if we put flashing lights, they're going to say that's not a true reading. You're using a speed inhibitor, and that's not the real speed or whatever. Same thing as having a police car there collecting the speed. People always slow down when they see the coppers. Okay. But it's not a bad idea, Rick. It's just to slow the speed down.
it's a small step, but
It's better than nothing.
yeah.
And it shows the neighborhood that we care and we're trying.
Mike, do you want to tell us just a brief about the designers?
Oh, well, but in terms of this one, do you want to vote this tonight?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that vote, and then under our local policy, that,
I mean, the speed limit is set by the state, isn't it? I mean.
well, but they're looking for, a date of adoption, attestation by the town clerk. So
Sure, you guys can vote it, and you want to put it in the paper that.
exactly, yep.
Okay, so, move to adjust the speed limit to 35 miles an hour, beginning at point 140 feet north of the junction of Middle Street, thence northern on Chase Street. And then, point 449 miles at 35 miles per hour ending at the junction of Route 113. Total distance being 0.49 miles, and then beginning at the junction of Route 113, then southerly on Chase Street, 4.51 miles at 35 miles per hour. And at the junction of Middle Street, the total distance being 0.51 miles,
Second.
just like it says here.
I assume Chase Street is eventually or something.
Yeah, I think I said that at the outset, didn't I?
I don't understand why is it like some kind of
Why
Einsteinian thing? Why is it shorter one direction than it is the
Yeah, it's
other?
relative.
Yeah, you're going closer to the
Well,
pole or
yeah,
something.
so-
I don't
so-
know.
yeah, so one way it starts at 140 feet and then it's 0.49 miles. So you see there's, 1/100th of a mile is 52.8 feet, right?
Oh, okay.
So still numbers don't work out quite right.
close enough for government work. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Who was the second on that?
I was.
Glenn, okay. So we'll put those together for your signature, and as Mike noted, under our local policy, that'll need to be advertised, and actually, that's under state law, that needs to be advertised in the newspaper as well, for that to take effect. So once we
Oh,
have,
even though Mass DOT approved it, we still have to do the newspaper thing? Yeah.
So somebody could have killed? Really? Oh.
no, it's just so there's public notice of,
Newspaper getting the speed limit.
Let's see, I think I'm going too fast on this road here. Okay.
So, you want an update on the?
Yeah.
All right, so, December 17th was the deadline to submit, responses to the request for approval.
Oh, yesterday, okay.
Yes, and we got 4, responses.
Not as much as the,
What?
not as much as the
No.
initial, we thought we were gonna get more, no?
Yeah, I thought we were gonna get more, we had responses, to take a look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So, what we'll do is we'll look over those responses, like, of course, if we set up any interviews, we'll set it up for, the week of the, 6th, and, next selection. And during that process, what you do is you rank, the top 3 candidates, and, then you enter into negotiations, with the top candidate, and if you can reach an agreement as to price, then you sign the contract. If you can't, then you go to number 2. And if you can't, then you go to number 3. But the idea being that you'll be able to select one of them.
So,
I have all the materials. I don't know if anyone's interested in taking a look at the submittals, because they submitted multiple copies. I could leave a copy of each one, in the selectman's office if you wanted to see.
Sure.
yeah,
Do you have copies, or you have to make copies?
So I have copies. So
Okay.
they were required to make, what was it?
3.
5 copies.
So when we say we, what does we mean?
We mean, well, actually, I've been designated as it.
I know, but you said we, so I'd just like to know what we means.
I'm going to look for help from individuals in town, Angus, and some of the people from the car post to take a look at it and give me advice as to.
I would look to the individuals that were on those committees and look to the open-minded, not obstructionists that think they have their own mind and have their own way of wanting to do that building, because I don't think that would be.
The question is selecting a designer as opposed to.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
Not a design.
but you understand what I mean?
Yes.
Then that we becomes a problem, I think, rather than a good moving forward. Good?
good. Mike, you might as well hang right there for 1 second. So we're gonna now talk about the Memorial Day parade guidelines. We got some useful feedback initially when we first put it out. I think we pretty much addressed most of the things were related to organizations wanting to have identifying banners, and we put that in as certainly an exception that certainly the Pawtucket High School band, for example, can have a banner that shows that that's what they are, and there shouldn't be any reason we can't have that type of identification in the parade. So that was one that 2 or 3 people I believe sent emails in about, and some of the others were very, very minor, and some of the other ones were strictly positive. So personally, I feel pretty good with what we've got there now. That's just my personal feeling.
I think it looks good, yeah.
So do I, and I think maybe the best test of this, because it's new, let's put it through a trial run in the sense that, and have an open mind and make it, work with our Memorial Day parade, and then if we see that
It's not set in stone.
that we might need to tweak it, we tweak it. But this is a good start. And I would like to make sure that we, on a sidebar of this, would be have somebody in place that's going to be in charge that are making these decisions sooner than later.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean by that? That we
So that they get
because
the
it's-
idea in their head, yeah.
because it quite honestly has snuck up on us in years past. And all of a sudden, Steve Alvino did it for years, and then he moved out of town, and who's going to do it? No, okay, then I said, okay, I'll do whatever I can. And Teresa and I tried to do it with Lisa, and it was just a month out. We need somebody in place, so if somebody has questions, they go to that, and they're not going to you, and then they're not going to, everywhere. You know what I mean by that?
So would this, that's a good discussion. Would we want this person to have any other parade responsibilities other than being the, I don't know what you want to call it, the overseer of the guidelines? Do we want this person to have
Well, you should
inviting
define.
powers or organizing powers? You see what I mean? Do we want this
Yeah.
person to be running the parade as well as being the
Arbiter?
arbiter? Yeah.
That's a good question.
Open to suggestions. I hadn't envisioned that because I think the town's, I think we've got a good framework for the correspondence with the potential entrants and the invitations. But with that said, we haven't historically, for example, had people submit, it's been more informal. We've got a database we keep and we know who's going to be there.
Jimmy, you gonna be there this
People-
year? Yeah, I'm bringing 3 trucks or something like that.
Yeah, it's
Or
been
the
more
band,
informal,
yeah,
so I
that's-
think with
that's-
this, in order for this, chairperson to do their job, they're gonna need more upfront information about who's gonna participate and,
budget.
well, yeah, we have a budget, it's a modest budget, right.
All these new committees that we're appointing, all these budgets now. We gotta watch ourselves.
So I think assuming this is voted tonight, I think our next step, we'd immediately, put this out on social media and the website, tomorrow and put out a call for people who might be interested. Ideally, the board could have multiple options, and interview a couple of people to get their sense of, and pick someone that you think reflects, that you think's gonna do the work that you think.
No.
I think there will, I know there will be, interested people. And then get someone appointed, ideally in January. Probably not, I'm sure not January
Get
6th,
them a
but maybe
little-
the second meeting in January.
A little hat with something. I'm just joking.
But I mean, in terms of the 2020 parade, I think I would intend to proceed as we had in the past with the staff doing it, but with the designation of a chairperson, we'd meet with that person if
I
they
mean,
want to be
maybe
more
that person
hands-on.
wants to get
If they
involved,
want to
yeah,
be more
yeah.
hands-on and they want to take that work off our plate, I would welcome that.
Right, but
I'm not going to
think
assume
we
that.
Shouldn't make that part of it in order to make the job too overwhelming.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Unless they want to, yeah.
Mm.
Okay. So we'll wait for Glenn, but I make a motion to accept the parade guidelines for, as written for the next forthcoming parade.
No, I'll second that. John, right?
Yes, sir.
We already,
I noticed that as I'm assuming you just finished.
yeah, we just finished, and,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so I just figured till Glenn gets back here.
Okay.
So we just finished the speed issue on.
Oh,
Main
okay.
Street, and the state said 35 miles an hour, and we just approved that, because we don't really have a recourse to go back to the state to say, no, we want 30.
They allowed us to drop at 5, not 10.
So I was wondering, and thank you very much for the communication, we appreciate that, and for your support as well as the street. So without recourse, we're saying we can't go back to them at all to see why we can't justify to lower it more?
We could do more collection of speed data, but that's, you had sent me a follow-up request on the number of children living on the street and whether the state takes that into account. They don't. That's just not, as far as they're concerned, there's kids living on every street, and it's, they really just look at the numbers. And so that's, we could collect more speed data at some point. And, the board earlier, just a few minutes ago, talked about that potentially in the future. But, at this point, I think, the board did vote to set the 35 and to post that. So I think that's the near-term plan.
Okay, thank you for approving that. What I'd then like to ask might be then more.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Could you mind using your microphone, because you might have some
Yeah,
insight,
good.
you
I
might
forgot,
have
yeah.
some insightful stuff, and people are gonna say, why didn't you have them come up here? We can't hear.
So besides the speed limit, I think, I'm not sure if this is the right forum, we had tried to approach about more signage then, or other types of deterrents on that street besides speed limits.
Like children playing, that type of thing? Or,
Yeah, either those signages or something specifically more on the top of Chase Street.
top being near 113?
Correct. That's where the majority, actually all of the children are based, as opposed to the lower end of Chase Street. So we do find the speed limit signs will hopefully help people coming from middle up Chase. However, coming from 113 onto Chase has been more of the close call problems, where they're coming from that 40-mile-an-hour road, obviously slowing down to make the turn, but then thereafter kind of speeding back up. So whether there's signs, we've talked about speed bumps, which apparently are not possible. I thought was maybe talk about the grading as opposed to being able to not plow, which I understand the speed bumps would not happen. But if you have I think they're called grading in the streets, and like highways where if you drift off, you hear the
Rumble strip?
rumbles.
Like in New Hampshire, coming up to an intersection, they have those, in case you fall asleep or something, that you know you're coming up to an intersection. Zzz.
Exactly. Something on that level, because it just is, I'm here at myself, but,
No, we understand. We took it serious. But we only can do what you can do, on our behalf, too. So my suggestion would be maybe that, Angus, maybe the gentleman has a conversation with Wayne.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that any of your things are not viable, okay? So I'm not, and see how much of it really is viable, because there's things we can or can't do because of whatever that is, that question we asked Wayne. I'm the one who asked him that. There are certain standards you have to, I forget what they are.
The MUTCD.
Yeah. He asked it, it's an acronym for something, and I don't obviously remember what it is. But there is that standard where you have to signage on roadways. That's the thing that determines, like, a stop sign being so close to an intersection. Maybe you throw some suggestions, and Wayne can think about it, and then come back to something else and say, it sounds good, but it's really not feasible. But we could do a few of these things, because I think we understand what you want, but there's nothing we can do about it tonight.
Sure.
And maybe.
Part of it was to thank you for being
Yeah.
involved with us, so your support. We appreciate that. But yeah, we wanted to find out first if there was a recourse to go back to still lower it. Sounds like that is a possibility, maybe with more data as it progresses.
Before you came in, I told the story because I've been here a while. But Gary always said, watch out. Gary used to be our old DPW guy. Watch out for what you want. Because years ago, we did the same thing to a neighborhood, and then we did the speed thing. The state came back and said, actually, just say it was 35. And they wanted it down to 30. And they came back and said, actually, that road should be 40. Even though we wanted to bring it down. So that's how hard it is with them. It's unbelievable that they get to determine, they like the kids. So they don't even know, that's real life. Just because somebody can go down the street because it's a beautiful winding road and go safely, because they check accidents too, if I'm not mistaken, right? Or is that just at intersections? And that's a factor also. So if you got neighbors want to just start running into each other and reporting it, they could put that into their equation, that there was 17 accidents plus whatever. I don't know. But I think that would be the place to start. And, give Wayne a call, maybe, can say, and then he could maybe make a proposal to us if it's feasible.
Yep. Yeah, he'd be happy to meet, I know.
He's good at it too.
No, I know. They've
He
been
brings-
helpful throughout the years.
he
When we
brings
first
a
moved
good
in,
talent
there were
with
no
that.
signs, So
Mhm.
they were helpful to put some signs up there, but since we moved in there, I think
Because
the number of kids doubled.
if you know the intersection of Georgetown Road in Crane Neck, we've always had. We didn't realize for years we had, and we were having accidents up there. We had the stop signs on the wrong road.
Yep.
It was actually, we should have had it on the, now we have it on all four, which is a good thing to do, but, you know, he brought a lot of good talents.
No, and he's been helpful throughout the years with some signage. It's just, we're trying to look for that potential next step here, just to, again, I'm here with good news, for the positive, and something that has happened, but the number of near misses have been just too many. So we're looking for anything and everything that we can do to protect the children.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you all, appreciate it.
Thank you.
And again, thank you for your support.
So Glenn, we have a motion
Second.
to
Aye.
go,
Aye.
all in favor, to support the
Aye.
parade rules, okay. Aye.
I didn't use the men's room. I thought it's been locked all this time, but I wasn't using the handle properly. Mike did his Fonzie thing and hit it and it opened.
Mike, you're up. Hi. So people know what we're talking about. Chief Dwyer has recommended maybe that we do away with burning season, the burning permit fees. And so just give us a brief, why?
Sure, thank you. So this came up probably about 2 years ago. One of our concerns was the amount of cash and checks that were coming into dispatch, prompting the discussion, should we still have a fee associated with burning permits throughout the season? The season begins January 15th, ends on May 1st. So I started to have a discussion with Angus regarding that, and really was just looking for the board to consider it.
Okay.
Getting rid of the burning permits.
Yeah, going back to the,
Yes, we always did. This has gone up and down maybe a few times, right, Mike? We've had them, we haven't had them, and then it was kind of a backlash, and then we stopped it, and then I think we might have put them back into whenever we were looking to try to get revenue any way we possibly could, and we were convinced by somebody that it was really costing a lot of money to be able to process these, and there should be a fee associated with them. I never agreed.
Okay, here's my thought, after reading this, that if something is free, then people
Won't get it?
respect it less and might be less likely to well, it's why should I bother signing up? It doesn't cost anything anyway. It's free.
I got you.
That people would be more likely to be scofflaws if it's free rather than
Well,
just
when-
having the
well, when we-
let me finish.
Mhm.
Having them go down and actually get the form, get the instructions from the like if you do it online, oh okay, you can print it out. Yeah, but well, a printer's not working. So I think it's actually valuable that people, here's the rules, it's in black and white, it's right in their hand when they do the thing, rather than just doing it online and having it be, it just seems like the town is treating it seriously. If maybe I'm wrong, but it's more serious even if you're paying $10 for it. Well, the town is valuing it, so maybe I'll treat it more seriously. That's just my attitude, and I'd like people to read the rules and do it. Okay.
Got it. So I would agree with some of that, in the sense that I would agree that they need to read the rules and stuff like that. But just because it's free doesn't mean that you can't have a permit, and there's a fine associated with the, if they don't get a permit and their yard starts to go up, right?
Sure.
They have to,
We can,
they have to pay a fine if they don't have a permit. The reason why you have a permit is so we can kind of regulate what's supposed to happen. You have a permit, and then you call in and say, can I burn today? You already have a burning permit for the season, so that's multiple times you can burn. So then you call in and say, is there burning today? And they say, no, the winds are too high, you can't burn today, or it's too dry, you can't burn today. So there is still a process. So that they have to follow, and all those processes have to be in place. But now, I'm sorry that I didn't.
So
Are you-
Mike,
hold on,
why do
can
you,
I finish? Look,
why do you think having,
Are you saying that we shouldn't have them, we should only have them online and not go to the station?
no. So.
I missed it, when you said online, I didn't know
no,
if I missed
but,
something.
but Mike's implying that the dispatch is busy and they don't want to deal with it, and so,
No, that's not true. We actually found more violations of the burning season once we started charging people, because it was a lot easier to track people as they would call into dispatch. Over the last 2 years, we've had an option to do this online, which has been successful. But our number one concern, which really raised this, was most people are coming in on the weekends, and they're coming in full force into dispatch. And it makes it a challenge for them to keep up with the people at the window, and then to manage entering the information into the system. But as far as the system itself, it truly was a lot easier when it was.
but why is it gonna be fewer people if you don't get $10 for it? They're still gonna have to, if anything, you might have more people.
I'll tell you.
Maybe you charge.
Hold on, I'll tell you.
Maybe we charge $10 if you come into the station, and it's free if you do it online.
That's not even a bad idea, but I'll tell you the reason why it's easier to do it online, because I try to get my building permit. Remember that wonderful night we had here with my building permit? I tried to do my building permit online. My wife made it all out, and you couldn't pay for it online, so then it was incomplete. So then we had to come because there's not hours here, and then we came here and paid for the bill and made out the application again and made it. So you don't even have the ability to pay for it online, but that's not a bad idea. That if you pay for if you do it online, you don't pay for it, but it still gets in your system. 3 Merrill Street's burning, right? And if they come in, it's a nominal fee.
That kind of reflects on how much it's using for resources, because if you're doing it online, the resources are very limited. If you're going in and eating up time for somebody who's in dispatch and trying to do whatever else they have to do in dispatch, then you're eating up that resource, so.
The
We have nothing built into our fire budget to say, we'll staff people on the weekends to manage.
It is a real, people have to understand, because I know listening to this, and if you're a layman, you're going to go, what the heck does that dispatch do? They have plenty of time to take, but all of a sudden you have 10 people waiting for a building permit because it's a good day to build, and then you have to watch the calls if somebody, it's.
Yeah, as somebody who did it for 5 years, almost every weekend with Sheep Homes at the time, we were nonstop from probably 8 in the morning until 11 o'clock, and at the same time, people were also calling in, and then we would have a house fire right in the middle of all that.
But
There's only
how
one
is it
person.
how is it any different?
Different from what?
If why does the fee make it any different? You're still gonna have people applying. I don't understand how it's different.
The other thing that has always concerned me, and this was brought up a lot during the Board of Engineers discussions, when a lot of this was put into effect. We're talking about a season that is very short. Most of us fire chiefs don't necessarily agree with the way the system is. But you're beginning the season in January, you're ending in May. There's chances that you're gonna have a really wet season or a really snowy season, and that limits the amount of time that people get to burn, especially if they're really stuck doing it on the weekends. I times where people are not able to utilize their permit?
It's cash management over there too. That's a concern, not a
That was the
concern.
number one reason why
It's cash management. Now they have a bunch of cash over there. And remember, now they're responsible for the cash, so I know might seem minimal. I understand your point, so why are we not, if we're not charging, what's gonna change with people coming in? But I like Rick's idea that we do it online, you know, do it for one season as a test run, and that is online free. If you go in and you pay for it, and we set that, when we make that announcement, say, remember, if you don't have a permit, there's going to be a fine associated with it if the fire department has to come out or something like that, just to make sure.
That is actually done through the county. We haven't issued any.
Do we have the burn in online too? Would have all the rules and regulations. Do we have them
People
now?
won't read them.
I know, I wouldn't either.
I just don't, I like the physical, here's your rules, and you have to.
But
they're
people
right
can
in your
still do
face.
it online
The
now.
nice thing about the online portal is you don't have to physically read it, but you're presented it, and you have to click yes. Again, I wanted to bring this up for consideration.
Of having no fees.
Of having no fees associated with it.
There's always a bone of contention with me that we went back to charging people. I don't know, just another way to tax people. And we really, you know.
But it's if people, it is a nuisance to the fire department if nothing else, and.
No, it's dispatch. Has nothing to do with the fire
No,
department.
but having burning existing at all, it's
Well, you ain't gonna take that away.
a privilege to burn. It isn't a right to burn.
Okay. Well, I don't know about that.
In terms of it being another tax, I do, you know, the every dollar we raise other than property tax revenue is actually a dollar less we need to raise from property taxes. You know, especially now that, you know, with last season's budget, we'll continue to do this at least as long as I'm here, is the, you know, budgeting revenues and projecting what we're going to raise. We do that for DOR anyway to set the tax rate. And so, you know, $4,200 to $4,800 a year out of the budget. It's not that it's going into the general fund. It is going into the general fund, but it's going into the general fund that if we didn't raise it there, we would have to raise it through property tax. So to me, I look at it as effectively a $4,000 increase in the budget.
I think that should have been the first question we asked. How much money were we really talking about?
Yeah, so it's,
That's
you
a
know,
pretty
it's,
significant amount of money.
you know, it's
When we're
not,
fishing around for 3,000 here and 4,000 there, and then when you go, yeah, it's just another tax, but it's a user tax.
right, exactly. It's borne by the resident taking advantage of the service, not by the general taxpayer. And, you know, $10 doesn't begin to actually offset the amount of staff time. That's where, you know, when I was corresponding with Chief Dwyer on this, and he was talking about the administrative work associated with it, you know, to me, if anything, that justifies a higher fine, or, you know, higher fee rather than, you know, eliminating it. One thing I do think there's, you know, I think Rick's idea is a fine idea. You know, it would cost revenue, but I think the incentive for people to go online is a tangible reduction in staff impact. So I think it would be fair to have offset there. Another thing which I think, you know, we could definitely look at, I was talking to Mike earlier tonight about, you know, would it make any difference if people could apply for and pay for the burn permits at the town office, not just at public safety? And he said that would be helpful. I don't know why that hasn't happened in the past. I don't see that.
I think
that
it was
would be
just
any
something we
problem
always
for-
did.
Yeah, part of it.
On the
I
weekends.
mean, yeah, obviously on the
Weekends.
weekends, that's not going to be a help, but during the work week.
I was going to suggest that, but I didn't know if,
I know,
If you-
Saturday morning is when I would go, yeah.
yeah, but I was going to suggest, yeah, but I
Yeah.
didn't want to put more work on.
No, I don't think that would be any real impact. I mean, it would be,
I think that would be a good idea.
well, I don't know. I mean, it's 400 permits in the matter of a couple of months. So yeah, that is an impact, but we're staffed, you know, we've got people here collecting money anyway.
Well, why don't we do, yeah. I don't care. What do you want?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too, what you noted, Mike, that, on a Saturday, you got a fire coming in. could have a fire call, at the same time you have a bunch of people lined up for permits, and then what, then you're in a pickle.
Well, no, the dispatcher, no, remember, the dispatcher is the one that is doing all that. It's not the fire department, it's the
Yeah,
dispatcher.
no, I understand that, but still,
The process comes to a screeching halt because priority.
Right.
Life safety.
Right, yeah.
The benefit we are seeing right now with the online portal is it's giving us an immediate report, every hour, I believe it's every hour, every 2 hours for dispatch.
You have a breakdown on that?
Fire department's now able to access that as well, so when we're out patrolling for
Read that page roll
burns, to make sure people are following orders, we now have access to that information without having to disturb the dispatcher who's already busy with the calls, so.
Mike, how big of a problem is burns getting out of control for the fire department?
It's usually not.
How many
that-
do you-
it's not-
a year
it's
do you
usually not
have?
a human issue, it's usually weather. Wind comes out of nowhere and the water becomes extremely dry and, it only takes seconds for things to turn.
Right, but it wouldn't have happened if they weren't, if they weren't burning. It isn't, the wind stirs it up, but if they weren't allowed to do it at all, it wouldn't happen.
Right, and that's managed every day by the Newbury system.
What's the breakdown on online to in-house? Did I miss that? Did you have that information? or no?
I don't think I provided
Yeah,
that,
I don't
certainly
know.
could, if you wanted.
I was just curious. 70-30?
Well.
80-20, maybe?
We have to look at it a little bit differently because when it's inputted in through dispatch, it's inputted into the system, so I don't know if there's a.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Designator that shows an online
I got you.
transaction versus.
The end result shows it all the same. You don't know how it got
Yeah,
there.
there must be a way to track that.
I got it.
I can certainly dig up that information, Frank.
So when people have already, I forget, so when people have already signed up, would they, and they want to do it 3 weeks later, would they then log in again to?
Yeah, so you buy a permit, you buy the physical permit, that permit is good for the burning season, and then you're required to activate it, that's part of the.
Yeah, but can you activate it, reactivate it online too?
Yep.
Okay.
What we do find is, again, people are just trying to work around the rules. If I choose, if I pick a day where it's extremely dry or windy and we don't allow burning, the portal will allow us to not allow anybody to activate after a certain period of time.
Okay.
But then they'll call dispatch just to ask.
Make sure, yeah,
Maybe get a delay.
yeah, okay.
And then the answer would be no. But few months.
So why don't we do, do you have any problem with saying if you do it online and do all the things online, it's free? And, but if they come in to here and then open it up for people to come into a 1910 building to do it also, to do it, it's $10?
I haven't had any involvement whatsoever in the online, setting up the online, and I don't know,
He's already got the
Like-
online set up.
so is that something,
That's something that's accessible through the finance office, from what I understand.
The website.
That's, the city hall systems that.
Oh, so you're saying that if you collect one in here, then you would have to log it in?
no, I'm just saying that between, if we're gonna announce this, like, either Sue or someone's gonna have to figure out, like, I don't know who set it up, because this is tonight, that was the first time that was suggested, so I haven't looked into what's involved with that.
City hall
It could be-
administrator,
yeah,
referral,
yeah.
I would be a user to that.
Okay, so, I
You tell
think
me
we
yes
could
or
do
no.
that. I think we could do that, it's just, but I haven't looked into it, so.
I just don't want to put something else on that stops. I don't want to be a cog. But I wouldn't think it's a bad idea to be able to collect it here, or do you have a
That'd
problem?
be an option.
Because it all goes into the system. You just have to make sure that you knew how to get onto the system.
That would just reduce the load though for dispatch.
See, I would rather increase the fee, have fewer people doing it, period, because it doesn't, it only causes problems for the fire department.
I don't think no matter how much you.
Well, I
increase
understand that, but
we
I'm
have
just giving you
1,600
my opinion. I just,
We have
I would
1,600
rather have
households. I'm
fewer.
surprised there's only 400 people that do it.
I would,
Well, a lot of people don't get permits.
I would rather fewer people did it. And, you know, we're talking about throwing smoke up into the atmosphere. That's not particularly good either, voluntarily. So, I mean, there's a lot more smoke goes up in burning a couple of moldy old logs than like 19 cars. It's way more.
Burning in West Newbury is a rite of passage. You are not going to get this.
Well, I do. I'm not saying I don't do it, but
Huh?
The rules do say clean, dry, it's very specific, a lot of these regulations.
I know, but you can't really.
I've seen mattresses go up.
Yeah.
Not in my house. I don't burn. I don't have a yard that I can burn.
Mike, what is the portal to the City Hall systems? How do I get there through the website?
I would have to
We
look
go
that up.
to, just the pay bills.
Yeah.
Okay, we've belabored this long enough, I think, for
And
a
I
short
had a
night.
discussion with Angus as well about our schedule for fire department permits for smoke inspections at homes, those types of things. I'm gonna provide him with some of that data as well. I think that if there's any talk of raising fees, I would much rather see those fees being raised. Generally, those are contractor-based fees for new construction,
Additions and stuff.
heating system improvements, underground tanks. Where we are right now is $25 per permit. Other communities are charging upwards of $100 per permit for services. So I wouldn't like to see the burning permit fee go up. I'd love to see it go down. I think that
Then you're gonna have more people do it, Mike. You don't want more.
You're not.
people
Not for
doing it.
$10. I don't agree with you. If it was $100, definitely. Not for $10. You're gonna have the same people that always get them every year.
that's what it is. That's exactly what it is.
It is gonna get them, no matter what. It's the same people.
So, so what I'm seeing on the City Hall systems is the customers charged a convenience fee to use this of 50 cents for an e-check or $1 for credit or debit. So it looks like there's an automatic cost just to use this.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know, I mean, if we had a zero fee, is that their only cost?
And then
Like these are, maybe.
What about
I
$5?
don't know
What about
that.
$5 if you do it online? $10 if you walk in and get these inspection fees up to $50.
I've spoken with a lot of departments, and a majority of them are using this system to do their permits, and a lot of them are for free. But you can see the rules are built into that.
Well, but I guess, I mean, what I'm seeing is, you know, there's a fee to the,
When do we have
Customer.
to decide?
Now.
Probably last week,
yeah,
right? What do you want to do? Can we make a decision on the? Can we make a decision on the other fees too?
We changed it to $5 to do it online, $20 to do it. If you do it in person.
That's a lot of money.
Oh, what are you talking about?
When's your next meeting in January?
the 6th.
We got to start them.
Burning season does start.
When you throw something away, it costs $20.
I actually,
Len.
no. When you were talking about it earlier, I was thinking of the same thing. You know, if you had to get rid of that brush, it would cost you hundreds.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking that when you were saying. Okay.
No second.
I'll second it, but
You're not gonna vote for it?
no.
Why? Which one don't you like? Let's come to a consensus. Just so we can get on with this.
You guys can vote something. I don't have to agree with it.
I know, but what do you think?
I think it should cost more.
Than $20?
Yes.
Oh well, that's That's foolish. Well, you're not foolish, but that's, I don't even want to
think
vote for it
should
for
be
20.
$50.
It's like the speed limit discussion.
I know, we're gonna go on forever with
Now
this.
we're going out.
Yep. I wouldn't mind just keeping it $10 and $5 online, just to get some incentives for this season. I don't want to go up to $20. I got too much rash from people when we started having them to begin with.
Yeah, and there was little feedback with the fire department, but that's.
And it's generally older people that do it too. It's generally not the younger.
Yeah, there's a.
Probably 70% of it's the same people every year.
Well, I do it every year. It's a blast, but I'll pay $200 to do it. It's fun.
I have too many other things to do. I hate burning brush. Just really-
Okay.
Was that a friendly amendment?
Thank you for listening.
Okay.
Was
So-
that a friendly
Yes.
amendment?
5 and
five
10.
online and 10?
Yes. Yes, or you just withdraw your motion, and I'll just do a new one to make it cleaner.
All in favor?
No, we're not. He's going to withdraw his thing.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay.
So I make a motion that it's $5 online and $10 in person.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. So it's
So,
just
hey, Mike, sort of going forward. Okay. Yeah, going forward, maybe at the end of this burning season, we'll have a chance to chat to see what the change was.
That-
And how it was, and how people were.
What's the change gonna be?
$5 online.
And then $10 in person.
now who changes, Mike,
The system, that company would do that.
and who takes care of that? You would?
City Hall.
Okay, what about you guys taking it? Do you want to not announce that too, or no?
I'd like to talk to staff and just get a sense
And
of,
then so whatever you guys decide, do.
And
You don't have to
Okay.
come back.
The system with you, so you
And you don't have
yeah,
to,
yeah.
I don't say you would have to come back to us to ask, oh, we're gonna take, that's,
Yep.
if you think it's a good idea this year,
Mhm.
or maybe we just say no and let's see how this works, we do it next year,
Mhm.
whatever. But I wouldn't mind putting on for our budget discussion and stuff like that, what he just mentioned about the other permit things.
think,
Yeah, we'll deal with that later.
Yeah, but I'd like
Yeah.
to not forget,
that'd be great.
because there's no way that it's $25. The person could be spending 2 or 3, we're spending more money, we're losing money. Because we're paying that inspector to go out there at an hourly rate, and it could be a couple of hours, we're losing money every time they call us on that.
Mike, are there any, are there any towns that that just don't allow it, right?
Earning, you
Around
mean,
here.
or
There's some,
money?
and obviously there's some cities that don't allow it for obvious reasons.
Yeah. But any, like, around here, Essex County
It's
towns,
pretty
or?
common.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't know of any communities in our area that,
okay.
a lot of them do it for free.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think Rock.
You get down to the North Shore, like Peabody and those places, like where I grew up in Farmington, they don't do any of this. It's more when we moved up in this area that people burn.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
and,
We're gonna move this along.
I know,
I
I
think-
know.
I think we're gonna
Archie-
lose Vanessa. I think we're gonna lose Vanessa. You wanna take a nap? We'll call you back? Go in the car, put the heat on.
I might not wake up for another 8 hours.
Archie, we do, on the reposted agenda, we do have the used car licenses. So I know that's not on your packet, it's on the
Okay,
reposted one.
I make a motion that we approve the used car licenses that were in our amended agenda.
second,
And we did, just for the record, we did receive that one outstanding piece of paperwork today.
okay.
Good.
So we're all three of them are 100% complete.
Excellent.
I looked at the
Liability?
insurance, and they were all up-to-date insurances, yeah.
Yep.
I didn't get a chance to read that, so, to look at that last issue, so. But go ahead and vote and I'll abstain.
So I make a motion to approve the 3 used car licenses as were submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. They're pretty straightforward, Rick, so
Yeah, I don't wanna poke, I don't wanna.
we've been doing it, it's like the liquor license.
I'm sure it's all good, I didn't even have a chance to.
It's the
look
same
at it.
three people, it's the same three places.
Yeah, no, I know the 3 places, I just.
Mhm.
But I haven't even read it.
Okay, we got a lot of,
The National Grid thing would be next.
I know, and we also got to talk about the budget. We got some stuff here. I'm trying to,
Well, how long is the National Grid?
That shouldn't take that long, did you, the paperwork got, or the applications got forwarded.
Mm-hmm.
right.
I personally see no risk here to the town, because if we decide we don't wanna go forward with the application after it's been submitted, we just cancel out the application. There's no risk, the thing is that if we don't get the application in for the 31st, or by the end of the 31st, then this additional bonus available, where they waive or they allow, up to, I think it's $4,000, per dual station, for the networking fees.
So what about,
For 5 years.
so what about, say, yeah, let's get it in, and then take a really hard look when we get it back and say, hey, what's gonna be the administrative cost of it? What's gonna, who do we need in the town? Is it really gonna be feasible?
I think that makes sense to do it that way.
And then say, hey, listen, this isn't really, now, then we get to look at something that said, okay, hey, listen, if we do this, it's not speculative we're getting it. Hey, if we do this and we put this many man-hours into it and this much money, we're gonna get this in return, definitely.
I did have one question. What happens after there was some kind of 5-year, what happens after 5 years?
Then after 5 years, I think it's $400 per year for this networking fee. If you're charging a fee to use the chargers, so the prevalence of EVs, of electric vehicles, is going to increase with time. So you can be virtually certain that there are going to be more people charging in 5 years than there are now. And you can.
Do we know that this technology will be
Yeah, that's a
the
good question.
the one that's used?
Well, there's been a long period of development within the automotive industry trying to arrive at
Commonality.
automotive charging standards. So this, what's called a level 2 charger now, and specifically the configuration of the plug, what the plug looks like and the voltage and all that. I mean, that's pretty standardized now. There's still outliers, but most manufacturers are using that, and Ford, Toyota,
Tesla?
well, Tesla has an adapter so they can use it, but they have this DC fast charge that's different, and we're not an appropriate location to put that kind of charger anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in the future we will be, but that would probably supplement what we would consider putting in now, because if 10 years from now, 50% of the vehicles are EVs, then people are going to just assume that when they park somewhere, they have the opportunity to charge if they need to. So as far as your question about that fee going forward, 5 years from now, where we're charging people, where there is a cost, I want to use the word charging, where there is a cost for somebody to charge, probably per kilowatt hour, it's either per hour or per kilowatt hour charge, or cost. You just integrate some nominal fee into that kilowatt hour cost to account for the networking fee. So maybe instead of being 22 cents a kilowatt hour, you're charging 23 cents a kilowatt hour.
Okay, so in other words, I got you, okay.
I'll make a motion that we do it. Apply, that's the proper thing. And then, but then take a hard look to make sure that it's something that we can sustain, it's not going to, where we're gonna get that $4,000 from. I mean, we don't have, it has to come from somebody's budget, so it's always one of those things when I always ask a candidate who's running for an office, I say, I wanna increase education, I wanna do this, I wanna do that, and I said, so do I, but where's that money coming from? You're gonna take it from somewhere else in a budget that we're already doing it, or you have to increase taxes. There's no other way you can do it, so that's what I would like to look at it. Man hours that it's gonna be able to sustain it and where the money's coming from after we get it, because let's just do it and we can always say no at that point. And then it's real too,
So how many man hours are still,
Oh, to get it to the application form?
it's still, like, what are we gonna do at this point?
Well,
You've got the contractor bills and stuff, I see,
Yeah.
the,
I think the
plan.
form is mostly completed. I think, I'm sure, I honestly don't remember exactly what blanks there are left to fill in, but, yeah, I think it's largely just assigned at this point.
It looked like it was, I didn't know if there was some addendum that I was
Yeah,
missing or something,
I didn't
no.
go over field by field to see if there was anything left that we had to fill in, and
The email suggested that it was just signed.
yeah, that's primarily the question.
Okay, well, I would second Glenn's motion there, yeah. Further discussion?
In terms of I did reach out to the principal and the facilities manager just to see, were they comfortable with this? They weren't aware of it. So, over at the Page School. And one of the concerns would be if the spaces were electric vehicle only. But we've confirmed today that that would not be a requirement of this grant. So even though in the schematic so they're shown out front. And so I talked to the principal and he said he'd be, amenable if there were 4 spaces to making 1 electric vehicle only initially. And then over time, if it looks like there's more demand, to do more. But he, wouldn't want to, he doesn't want to empty spaces in kind of prime locations. Yeah, so I thought that made sense. I had the same question Glenn mentioned about or actually Archie, about the, networking fee after the 5th year, because it's $4,400 for the initial 5 years in each location. So that's, 800 some odd a year per location. So but that's something you can revisit later. In terms of the point of contact, it's written with Rick as the point of contact for the grant. I think it ought to be either myself or Wayne or possibly Mike, but it ought to be
I don't disagree with that. They put my name in because I was. And he's not here to defend himself.
I don't hear any protest.
Nope. That's what you do. The guy leaves the room to go to the bathroom, you make him the chairperson.
Okay,
Or the
all in
secretary.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let's see if we can get through the budget discussion here quickly.
Wait.
I just wanted to I think Angus gave us, so let's just talk about, we want to give we have to do this now. We have to give a philosophy of what we want yeah, what the town what we want to sort of keep the overall budget at. And so Angus has given us some costs of about increases of, not increases, but things that, expenses that we're gonna have to.
So we already know that are gonna go up.
And so we know that it's.
Oh, the mic, Archie. Make sure you're
Oh,
using
yeah. Here. This one's gonna go shortly, it's red. We know that it's 1 point, the number, 1.1 mil for additional costs. For example, the school debt, solid waste, we know is going to go up. Health insurance is going to go up. We assume the Pentucket budget is going to go up. Additional people at Essex Aggie, and contract increases, and non-contractual people's
So you're telling me it's
wages.
going up $1.1 million over last year?
Exactly. Very
No,
approximately.
no. That's
No,
what we're saying
no.
is based on what we know. That's before the department heads have submitted proposed
No, no,
budgets.
just-
You know, it
But
incorporates.
this is
what-
very, but
Yeah.
we have to have,
All
we
this
have
is
to
all
have
estimates.
some
We have to have
kind of,
something.
something to start with.
I
right.
agree.
Right.
Okay,
Yep.
so how are we going to address that in some fashion? So we know we've got.
Is that with the debt to the high school?
Yes.
Okay, I don't think you mentioned that.
Yes, okay, school debt in there too.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know, it's in the package.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
so,
forgot to put page numbers. That's fine.
so
In this packet, 6 pages.
Yeah, I got it.
all very approximate. So we're already paying existing debt service that we've been putting towards our school stabilization. So that's about $350. We have in the school stabilization now, without putting any more in there, we've got $1.6 million. We thought that, just picking a number, that 6 years was a good amount to sort of spread that amount over, so that we don't spread it over the entire length of the bond, because the people that have paid into it in previous years. Maybe they should get some benefit for it, and people that move into town or have not actually contributed to that, it seems that the people that are here now should get a little more advantage of that, because they have put into this school stabilization account. So we just came up with 6 years, and we can change that, but if we do, that gives us about $250,000 a year that we can draw down out of the school stabilization. So there's $250,000. However, in this particular budget year, 2021, the full effect of the school debt is only 50% of its normal amount. So I would venture that we don't use $250,000 out of the school stabilization in 2021, that we divide it by 2. Because we're only this year, the school debt is going to be $650 rather than double that in the forthcoming years. So I would say, for that reason, I would only use $120,000 out of that. Just my idea. New growth. So new growth is going to be, it's something like $200,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. So, and so what have we come up with now? We've got $350,000 here from ongoing retired debt service. We have $125,000 here, and we have $200,000 there. So we've got $550 plus 125, $675. So now, so we want to get to 1.1.
425 to account for.
Right. So that's where we're at. So if we stay within the bounds of Proposition 2.5, so 2.5 of the of approximately the levy limit is, it's about 13.5 or something like that, Angus, is that about the amount? 2.5 of that would be, what? Is that,
We're below the levy limit now.
no, but I
Yeah.
mean, in other words, if we're gonna go up to, if we went up 2.5 of our, of last year, what's that?
2.5, 15 million, right?
It's less than 15, it's,
15, 15, 6,
it's
6,
about
7.
like that, so,
So 2% of that would be 270,000.
so,
Or 2.5% of that would be, 332.
350 or 340 or something like that, yeah. So, let's say 330. So, now we're within 150,000 of achieving that goal if taxes went up 2.5. So we're not that far off on this. Again, as Angus said, this doesn't deal with any new,
But hold on, but, you can't use that $1.1 million next year because we're only going to be recognizing 50% of that debt. So if we're only.
No, that is with the 50%.
The 1.1 is the 50?
50%, yeah.
Yep.
Otherwise, this would be
Got it.
1.7 or something.
That's right.
So Angus, where this says school debt year 1, 651, 758, in year 2, it'll be twice that.
Roughly twice that, yeah.
It'll be 13.
Yeah, I
Not
mean, the second half
exactly,
hasn't been
yeah.
issued yet, so we don't know, the exact, we don't know the exact number, but this number is the exact number based on this year's, proportion, so, it's very close to what the actual number will be.
So what's the,
So my take-home message is, can we keep what we're doing within the
2.5%?
realm of 2.5? That's what I'm driving at here. I think we're close, or
No, we can't.
no, we can't.
Well, so this doesn't incorporate any new growth or anything like that into his equation?
No.
Yeah, so there is more revenue.
Yes, it does. I'm calling
The 200?
200,000 there in new growth.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so there's no, so increase in revenue. So on an estimate, and this is a low estimate of how much our costs are going to be increased, we're still in a shortfall of $100,000. That's not any new initiatives or anything, anything. So I would say, no, we can't, unless we start cutting,
Well, I mean, it just.
right? Just as an overview without.
It does include a COLA, and it's including,
But we still have to come up with $100,000 even on.
well, this is so rounding. I mean,
I know, but
yeah,
okay, so it's 75,000. So it's 50. It could be 125.
any of those numbers, yeah.
Okay, when you, there's gonna be the difference here between what you wanna spend, okay, versus what you can spend within the levy limit.
Mhm.
But one of the things you have to take into account is that the amount that we pay for the school is a debt exclusion, which is outside. Now, we've been paying the 350 or whatever,
Approximately, yeah.
out of our regular,
Operate-
subject to 2.5.
operate, yeah.
So that 350 theoretically goes over to the debt exclusion, and then you have the levy limit, that money's available.
We did, yeah. There is a debt exclusion override on that bill, so that doesn't
That
have
money's
to be.
offside.
That doesn't have to be within the 2.5%. Unless we have a philosophy.
The 600,000, you mean? actually.
Doesn't have to.
Yeah, it doesn't have to.
Not 350, but 650.
No,
Yeah.
650,
But-
doesn't have to, but if we want to have the philosophy that we don't want to raise our budget to 0.5, any more than 2.5%, our own philosophy.
This is already,
Then
you
this
make a
is-
good point, that's already been done, that's, yeah,
Meaning
yeah.
it's not a question of you can't, it's a question of whether you want to.
Want to include that, a philosophy of what
Right.
we want to raise it. Because we can have that on the side, not even count that into this,
As power as the levy.
Right.
of the levy limit.
So that makes a huge difference.
So that philosophy alone, I would try. Now, can you play in playing games is not. I don't mean this in a nefarious sense, but can we say let's take that whole thing off and use it as a debt exclusion override? Just take it off right now. It just in paper. It doesn't have to be part of the 2.5%.
It isn't part of the 2.5%.
I understand. So then let's work, because we're working the numbers like it is. So let's work the numbers like it's not. In this, right? And then see if we can take some of that in to the 2.5%. Maybe we use $200,000 of that. And then 400, you know what I mean by that? Can you do that? Well,
I'm just.
Do you understand what I'm trying to
No,
say?
I'm just thinking in terms of, I would rather us, not to try to get it in the legal aspects of 2.5, just a philosophical,
Right.
a philosophical 2.5 is what I'm driving at, yeah,
I'm just suggesting you don't confuse both.
yeah.
Is that,
Mhm.
is you say, oh, you can't do it more than 2.5%.
yes, we can.
But in this case,
In this case, we can.
We can do it outside the debt exclusion override. So,
Who's got a calculator? What's 650 out of 650,000 out of the total budget? What is that?
the percentage?
Yeah.
I don't know, I had the wrong, I have,
Five.
yeah, I have a
5%.
5%.
I mean, that's,
Well, 1% would be 150,000, so.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
600,000 would be, 4%, so.
So if we were completely outside that, we'd be doing 4 or 5% plus 2. So we're talking about a 7% tax increase. That's big. No, it is.
no, because you get the other numbers. I mean,
No, but we've got
The
4,
numbers still work.
6.
The numbers still work, I didn't want you to suggest that.
No, I know what you mean, but I'm just saying, as
So-
a total increase, it would be 4% plus
Mhm.
whatever, plus 2, even 1, it's still.
it's all about
still
money,
a
it's not about the
5.
percent.
I'm talking about the total
Money.
impact to the taxpayer, it's gonna be, this would be a,
Mhm.
5, 6, 7% increase.
So why don't we go with the philosophy, obviously, of trying to keep it under 2.5%, see where we get with the debt, and then deal with it when we get to deal with it. Because even if this is 100%, and this is before we have any new initiatives or anything like that from any department heads.
Mhm.
So, because I'm hearing people are gonna wanna add staff and whatever and redo stuff. And how many, and quite honestly, how much longer can we just give 2.5% to non-union personnel when their insurance is going up? I always found that unfair, that they don't have a negotiating thing, and all the other, unions are getting more than 2%. I don't know, I wouldn't mind looking at that down the road too, that's just kind of how, it always seems like they're, because they're not union represented, they're getting the short end of the stick. This is my personal opinion.
Okay, but our point is, what do we want to,
You're looking for a basic philosophy right now.
yeah, but we want to, if you look at this, in other words, our sentence number 1 is we propose that FY 21 operating budget, it will limit the average single-family tax increase to no more than fill in the blank percent. And that's not doing, that's our money number, not, I was saying 2.5, because I just sort of, people know that number, but it's going to be way more than
Yeah,
that.
but you have to read the next line, excluding the Pawtucket Middle School and stuff like that, you know, number one.
Right, but people have to understand that it's not really excluded, they're gonna be paying for it.
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
operating budget- But they did know that. They did know that when they voted for it.
Some people do, but, okay,
They were told when they
Okay.
voted for it, and they were willing to do that.
okay, so your
okay.
number, what do you want there? Okay,
So why don't we do this? Why don't we, you know, we always say we have to stay within the range of 2.5%, right? So why don't we put 2% in that line, but exclude the debt from the middle and high school out of that 2%, and see what those numbers are. We always say 2%, so we maybe use the 5% to offset that.
Okay.
And then we can say, hey, people understand that you knew you were gonna have this debt exclusion override, but we're trying to do our best to pay it down. We're paying it down by savings, and we're using some of our operating budget too. We're only increasing that, I don't know.
okay, that's reasonable. Do you wanna use the sum of the school stabilization fund this year? Do you wanna use a sixth of it? Do you wanna use a 12th of it, or 0 of it?
Why don't we do, whatever I would advertise it obviously over 6 years.
Mhm.
And then but personally have it matching the amount we're gonna be charged. So if I don't wanna give, I have it, I don't wanna give 250 if it's only gonna be half the amount. I liked your idea about doing that, so, you know what I mean? So I like
Because this is a lighter year.
lighter year, so we give lighter amounts. It should be, I think, yeah, I think it should be, I think that's what, I liked your idea by doing that.
Okay.
And then when the payments increase, we give more out of it.
Okay.
But we figure that all out over 6 years. We should know. Do we have that type of information?
We do, yeah, the model that I'd handed out,
Yeah,
I
well,
think 2
okay.
meetings ago, that, you know, we have the 30-year and then the 6-year,
Mhm.
and the 6-year did have 1/2 of the annual amount in the first year because it was just half of the debt,
Mm-hmm.
just half. I mean, it's still a lot. But yeah, that was built in.
Okay.
So, you know, where this draft that's in front of you addresses that is it talks about in item 3, the second, we propose to continue to recommend that town meeting appropriate retired debt service into the school stabilization fund, and that the town begin to draw down the balance in that fund in FY21 based on a multi-year plan to mitigate the financial impact on taxpayers. You know, you might want to put in a 6-year, then that way it's clear.
Is there any reason to put it into the fund and then take it out versus just simply paying the debt service? In other words, are we making a double bookkeeping entry there that we don't need to do?
I think once we draw, probably not, honestly. No, probably not.
It's just in and out.
Yeah.
It always drove you insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even when I say, let's put the money into stabilization, then he goes, but then we're gonna be taking it out of it 2 articles later, but
Right.
whatever.
I mean,
Whatever.
I think in this case, you know, with just using some round numbers, the retired debt for FY21 is going to be about what it was this year, so about 322, which is a bit higher than half of the debt service, or half
Okay.
of that. So maybe we end up, you know, putting that, you know, 250 or you know, the 1/12 of the estimated total balance toward the debt service, and then the balance up to the retired debt into the fund. I'm not speaking clearly, but
Yeah,
taking that same amount and putting some of it into the school stabilization and some of it directly toward the debt service. But yeah, once that retiring debt is totally off the books, there's no reason to continue to put it into school stabilization and take it out in the very same budget year. That's, yeah. Yeah, at that point, you're just building it.
So what
Paying
you
it
want to
directly.
accomplish, Archie, is the 2% and it gives him some thing, or what do you think about that?
I'm a little confused right now, quite honestly.
Okay.
So looking at this sheet here,
yeah.
this page here, okay, it shows 600, I'll round to the nearest thousand, 652,000 for school debt, and 1.110 million for known, known increase total, including the school debt. So if you pull that school debt out of that number, now we've taken what was approved by the override, we pulled that out, so, 652 out of, 110. So we're looking at 458,000. But then here you talk about $200,000 in new growth,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we're now down to 258,000,
Mm-hmm.
which is, what am I missing? I mean, it's
You're not-
already.
no,
that's
you're
al-
not-
That's
you're not-
already, that's already well below, 2%. Maybe I'm misunderstanding something here.
No?
No, you're right. I was just talking about.
He wanted to incorporate, he's
the
trying to
fact
talk
that-
about the
that
whole bill.
To the average taxpayer, it's gonna be whatever this is plus 4%.
Instead of talking about like percentages on that, he wanted to know what the impact of
The overall
money.
impact, I understand, but I'm just trying to kind of isolate it to the pieces so we can make sense of the pieces.
Yep. No, what you said is exactly right. And that's when I said, try to get to that. And then when I said about that 600 and, what's on here, but that 650 that you see there, I said maybe we can work some of that into our operating budget, right? Thinking the philosophy, I know it doesn't have to be, you know what I mean? Just say, let's not spend all the way up to 2.5% if we really don't have to. And then maybe use that, some of that money, and then use that with the exclusion override. That's what I was talking about, and that's why I proposed 2%. And so then theoretically we can do it, but I would want to raise it 2.5%, but use the other stuff to do the debt exclusion. But you're right. Archie was just a big picture, but you're right. It's only 200. Now is that a conservative new growth?
No, it's not. No, that's higher than what
That's
it's
higher.
trended.
It's-
I mean, obviously, we do have a significant amount of development underway, so I don't necessarily think it's off base, but it's not conservative.
Okay, so I like 2 for the moment, see what, yeah. There,
Two exclusive of the override.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it because thinking, let's just see where that gets us,
yeah.
and then make some hard decisions, or maybe say, the people really wanted it, and we have some programs that we want to increase, and the people wanted that, and they understood that exclusive override, but we tried our best from the beginning. Okay. We done with that?
And it actually isn't gonna be, if we're parsing it out in different ways, if we're taking, out of that 650, if we are gonna take 1/12 of the thing out of, knock it off, we're gonna.
Yeah, that's not even the 650,
It's not 650, it's 5,
it's 500.
yeah. So that's better.
Mhm.
Okay,
500, and then there's the 350.
That's already paid.
Right.
That's already
that we already know, are
Yeah,
paying.
that's no
Yeah,
increases,
yeah.
yeah.
built into the system.
Oh, so it's already built into the system, so then you take just say the 125, so that's 475, and the 650, So it's only really 100 and something then.
For the increase related to the school that
For that year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so
Not
it's,
as bad as it looks.
yeah, so it's not the 500, it's
Yeah.
actually,
Right,
you just round it all up, it's one, just say 125 off, just say it brings it down to 5, but we already
It's
have,
confusing because there's so many different.
we already have the
Yeah.
350 built in.
No, I mean, but the tougher shot is gonna be 2 years and, subsequent years, that's where, because then you have the whole,
Yeah, but then our,
the whole share of debt.
yeah, but then in our money, in our proportions go up, not as proportionally because, but we're only using whatever, but then that,
Everything goes up a little bit more.
yeah, that 250 becomes 250, not 125 or whatever the heck we're gonna do. In the model, it goes up, our payment,
No, I understand that,
we
but-
spend down the
but
1.6
school-
million.
The school exclusion goes from 651, nominally,
To
I'll say
1.3, yeah.
So,
We don't have enough, we don't have enough money to offset that.
yeah, so that's, so it's year 2 and subsequent years are gonna be,
Yeah, so
But-
one
but-
point,
But we voted on it and.
yeah, Rick,
Okay.
so the 1 point, just say it's 1.1?
Yeah.
Right, so that means, then we offset it by 250 that year, and we still have the 350, so we're offsetting it by 6, so then it would be 500.
Yeah.
A real 500.
Yeah. Okay.
Angus, but this year we haven't retired all the debt, right?
Correct.
So in future years, that debt will be retired within like the next 2 years, right?
There's
Yeah.
a few things coming off,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the
Yeah.
idea would be.
That's
that would
even
be-
better.
So it's gonna add a little
Mhm.
bit more to the
Well,
retirement debt.
Yes.
And how much do we have any sense?
Yeah, we
Six.
know that,
It's
that's,
actually 650.
that's all
The
shown
weird
in that.
number is that it's
model.
650 total, right?
From when we started.
Yeah.
We started with 650, and then as debt got retired.
Right.
That's the number.
So we're gonna get
The end
another
game is
300.
On
A
an
year.
annual basis?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that.
It's just a coincidence that it's that number, yeah. Okay, I lost my place.
So one thing, the second sentence of that first item, this, the question of whether that 2% should or should not rely on the appropriation for free cash in order to meet this budgetary goal. As I was, putting this together, I went back to last year at this time, and in a memo I'd put to the board, I had included that very same sentence on whether that targeted percentage increase should or should not rely on free cash, because right at that time, we had just last fall transferred a 240,000, I think, for free cash, which is what allowed us to hit the percentage increase target. And so, interestingly, that was struck last year. The board didn't take a position on that in terms of whether we should rely on free cash or not. And as you know, just last month, we did appropriate free cash, 400,000, and that was why the tax rate went down. Without that free cash appropriation, that wouldn't have happened. So as I'm, aiming for that target, should I assume we're gonna continue to transfer free cash in the fall to offset the tax rate? Because that's a huge question. If I can, do that, that makes it easier to hit the target.
Okay.
You see, and last year, the board kind of punted on that, which I'm not criticizing. I think that was right because we're still figuring things out. What I've heard from this board, and in particular as well from the Finance Committee, is that drawing down free cash to offset the tax rate, there's support for that because that's the taxpayers' money, but it ought to be part of a multi-year plan with projections so that we don't find ourselves in a situation some years down the road where we can't afford to do that, and then all of a sudden there's a big spike because we've come to rely on that drawdown.
So we wanna keep a certain percentage, approximately a certain percentage of annual budget, as free cash. And so what's the delta between current free cash? Of course, it's hard to project what free cash is gonna be, but is there a way to sort of amortize that?
Yeah, well, so right now,
Any plan
Yeah, right now, our actual free cash is quite a bit higher than what the, you know, DOR recommended is. So I think rather than, you know, just, I think, you know, what the auditor has recommended, which makes sense, is that, you know, you could use that to, for instance, put more money into stabilization, which could, in any given tax year, reduce what you're budgeting into stabilization. So that's another way of offsetting the hit on the taxpayer. But, you know, it's good for the town's, you know, bond rating and kind of financial health to have that reserve. But whether it should be sitting in free cash, well, that's the thing. Right now, it's in free cash, but getting it into stabilization would be
They like it in both.
better. Yeah, I mean, you want to have, with free cash, you want to have that recommended percentage, but right now, we're quite a bit higher than that. So I think, you know, the town's been appropriating free cash to offset the tax rate for the last many years, and I think that is probably going to need to continue.
Yeah,
I mean, I just think-
we've been doing it because we don't have we've been doing it because we don't have a really clear-cut policy to return free cash
Right.
back to the tax
Right.
base, because we all feel we have too much and we're just frightened to get rid of it. So we have to make a concrete, I would say yes until I would say yes because we're gonna do it anyway. And I think the reason why we punted last year was just because because we all know and we've all been taught, you do not want to have free cash or consider it in your operating budget. Because when the day it dries up, then you're really messed up. So it's nice to have, and I think we have too much free cash, so I'm willing to spend it down and obviously give it back to the taxpayers. Can you imagine one town meeting that came up and they voted it down? When I was a selectman, we proposed that, to give money back to the tax people, to lower the taxes.
Well, was that the first year that it came up?
Oh,
That was
yeah.
the first time I remembered. I think I remember when that
It was voted down.
And that was the first time I remember that.
Because people said, oh, we might want this, we might want to buy land, we might want to do this, and they were convinced. Remember? Blew me away. We want to lower your taxes. And we have like almost $2 million in this account, just sitting there. Nope, keep it there.
Did Phyllis make that motion?
No. Okay, you feel comfortable with where we're at? I would say, yeah, until we have a policy in place that free cash, I would say we need to do it because we have too much. Unless we have some huge expenditure that we don't want to bond, and we want to use it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I agree. Okay, final thing, let's keep cracking on this. What's I don't quite understand item 8 there.
Well, so that's a carry forward from the last year's to some extent. In last year's, it talked about striving for better understanding of police and dispatch expenditures, including overtime, and it was calling
Okay,
for
so
that.
we're talking about, you're not talking about cross pens here, you're talking about payroll.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so this, you know, this might be not the right vehicle to get at this final item. You might just want to leave that for, you know, the collective bargaining table. But I think it's just got to be acknowledged that the contract expires the end of this year. There's, in all expectation, going to be a new contract. So I think having some target for what financial impact, you know, again, that
Well,
might
we
be
have
something.
to.
Yeah,
We need to start having meetings ourselves so you know
yeah.
somewhere how to implement that, put that
Okay.
money inside the budget so we don't have to transfer things around after it's negotiated.
okay.
Right. So, but
We've
that
always
might be
done that.
something
We've always
might
done
be-
that. Supposedly,
Well, we never want to have it too obvious. 'Cause then
Exactly.
then it becomes a target.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. So
But
perhaps,
they know that too.
you know, perhaps you could strike that one entirely,
Okay,
but it's something we all need to be aware of.
Angus, so just thank you for doing this. It gives us like, at least, we sort of now know what we're,
Mhm.
the 1.1, it gives us at least a little idea of what we're up against.
Mhm.
Okay, are we good on that?
Yep.
All right. I, request for early closure at library.
They're asking,
I punted on this, I let Angus decide this. That's my feeling.
mine too, we had a brief conversation, but if they're gonna close at 2, it's New Year's Eve. I guess because they're open until 8, that's kind of foolish. But if everybody else is gonna be, if we're gonna have everybody else stay here until 4:30, it should be 4:30. If we're gonna let the library go at 2, we should let everybody else go at 2.
Yeah, but doesn't the library set their own hours? They have their own board.
Then why are they asking us?
Well, I mean, that's what I don't understand.
You asked my opinion, that's my
Okay.
opinion.
My opinion is let them do what they want, but if someone is a part-time employee, they're not gonna be paid for the whole day. They're gonna be paid for what
Oh, yeah,
they
well,
worked.
oh, yeah, please.
But it seems like I mean, they have Saturday hours. They make their own hours. I don't think we need to get involved in the weeds of that. Angus, what do you want to do?
Well, I definitely don't think it makes sense to keep the library open till 8 on New Year's Eve. I think,
I was planning on going there.
you know, but
Yeah.
with the, you know, I think the issue of pay gets a little more complicated with people with set schedules. Because basically, if if the employee's normally scheduled to work on a Tuesday till 8, and management closes the facility and they're ready and able to work, but they're not able to work, that ends up being a penalty for that person financially, and they might say, I'd prefer to work and get paid than get sent home early and not get paid. And I know, that ends up being a big issue.
But it's their issue. They want to do it. The library trustees, they want to do
Well,
it.
it's labor and management,
So let them take the heat.
In terms of the time of closure, to me, I expected we'd be open a full day. 4:30 is still 7.5 hours before midnight. I don't know what's been done in the past, Mike, but whereas like Christmas Eve, you're going, people might have to travel, go with family. I don't know. New Year's Eve to me isn't as sacrosanct.
I can't remember what we've done. Yeah.
You know what, every year is different, and let's start a schedule in
Yeah.
January.
Yeah.
It does the whole year, so we don't have to be doing this a week
Yeah.
before.
Right.
We're always doing it.
I know, let's.
Well, and ironically, we have
some.
done
We
that
have
since
the
I've been
Thursday-
here.
Thursday
We just
show.
didn't address New Year's Eve because and honestly, that's partly on me. I'm not thinking of the library. I'm thinking of us. 4:30s,
Mhm.
but it didn't occur to me that 8 p.m. that doesn't make sense.
Sounds like, Hank's just not a real New Year's Eve guy. He's not gonna have his party hat on and his noisemaker, so. He wants everybody to work until 8.
All right, so what do we do? We're killing time.
I don't care. You heard me.
If it's not something the board wants to get involved with, that's fine. I can handle it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine for the library to figure it out.
Okay. All right.
Minutes for November 25th. I read them. I'm okay with them, but
So moved.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
On the water
Quick
projects,
rundown on the water, yeah.
yeah, you had the information that was sent out today. I can summarize that if you want, but there were some good bullets. There's both
I'm
projects.
surprised, they must be working really fast.
They really
I'm
are.
shocked
In
how
fact,
much
I
is
have.
done.
So this is a photo from today of the new chemical building with the pad for the generator there in the foreground. And then this is the,
Whoa.
yeah, I mean, they're flying. Obviously, that'll be painted. Everyone just should
It's
know
pretty
that.
big. Look at the person there.
But yeah, we weren't wrong to say it looks like a big doorknob. But these are both from today, so they're flying.
Probably bigger.
I did, but I said, that went up fast.
I'll say.
Good. And no unforeseen problems?
How come
No.
it doesn't tip over? I guess it's really heavy. Yeah.
Good balance.
Okay, anything else? Because I want to get on to,
I can't believe how fast they did.
sorry, but we got a whole meeting after this meeting.
Okay, I know. All right.
No, that's all.
That's great.
Okay.
Move to adjourn.
To exec session.
But one thing okay, I can tell, remind me, I didn't do it, I forgot to call you. Remind me to talk about water in executive session. I would want an update on it. Haven't heard from a while.
Okay.
You know what I mean? No, not now, but just in a future meeting. Make a motion to go into executive session,
Second.
to adjourn out of executive session, to adjourn for the evening. Right?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.